Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is going to be another in my RHCE practice session series where I am preparing for the Red Hat Certified Engineer exam. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite everyone, if you haven't subscribed yet, to click that subscribe button and ring the bell when you do so you can be aware of when new content comes available. Also, feel free to leave comments on the video. You can ask questions, you can give praise, give critique. It's all good, and I will respond as I have both time and ability to do so. I can't promise responses to everything, but I'll try to get to as much stuff as I can. In this video, we're going to be looking at the last of the objectives in the Use Ansible modules for system administration tasks that work with group of objectives, and that will be users and groups. I do want to remind everyone that this is not intended to be authoritative information, nor is it intended to be a tutorial. Rather, this is an opportunity for me to go over the exam objectives, talk about them, try to do some examples of them as a way to self-assess if I am prepared to handle tasks on the exam related to the objectives. Ideally, at the end of the videos, I'll say, yep, I feel like I'm good to go with the objective, and if not, then I'll make a note of it because I have just under 2 weeks left before the exam, which is obviously not enough time to go from knowing nothing to being prepared for the exam, but is enough time to shore up a couple of knowledge gaps that I might have here and there. That being said, I do try to have the information as accurate as possible, though. So I'm here on my Red Hat Enterprise Linux workstation. Let me SSH into my Ansible control node. And then I'll sudo su into my Ansible account. All right, clear my screen here. So the first part of this is working with users, and this is fairly easy to do. There's a module called the user module, and it can be used to create users. So let's do that here. Before I do want to take a look at the doc, and I want to talk about a couple of the options with this. So one thing to keep in mind with making your users, let's say that you want to create, you want to go ahead and add some users to groups at the same time of creating the user. Well, you're going to want a couple of things here. First of all, you're going to use the groups plural option to list the groups that you're wanting to add the user to, and then you're going to want to use the append option at the same time, because otherwise what you would do is whatever group that you want to add the user to is going to overwrite their group membership. But the thing that you need to remember is that the group singular option, what that does is set the actual primary group for the user rather than adding the users to a couple of groups as well. Now this module is very similar to what the user add command would be, and you can set all sorts of stuff. We're going to set just a couple of things, but you can set home directory. We're going to talk about creating the password, because this actually is not accepting a string. This needs to be an encrypted password, because basically what this is going to be doing is setting what would be an Etsy shadow for a user. And let's see, anything else that is of significance. You can go ahead and create SSH keys and go ahead and do a couple of other things. You can set the UID for the user rather than just letting the system pick that. Not sure. Well, I guess that could be a good idea to do if you want to have that consistent amongst all of your machines, but I would be wary of having conflicts with UIDs of other users that you have. And then you have the comment, which that is for the geckos piece of the user. So let us make a playbook here. We're going to call it user test.yml. We'll do the needful here, testing users. We're definitely going to have to become for this, but hosts, just for time, we'll do this against only one of the hosts. Become, yes, and vars. We're going to make several different users. So what I'm going to do is create a variable here that's going to have a list that will have a couple of attributes. So that way we can loop through the users module, the user module. So we're going to call this new users, and we'll make our list here. Let's see, username. Let's see. What do I want to do? Naruto stuff or Final Fantasy? We'll do Final Fantasy for this one. So we'll do username Rosa. We'll make a field called geckos. We'll say white wizard, and password. Fill that in just a moment here. And let's see what else. I think that's all I want. Just username Rosa Gecko's White Wizard. Okay, so we'll do another username Rydia. The Gecko's comment is going to be technically Summoner, but Caller from good old Final Fantasy II on the SNES. We'll do username Kane Dragoon, and lastly we'll do Cecil Paladin. Okay, I'm leaving the password blank for right now. I'll explain, well, the reason why is we're going to create that using something else just a bit. So tasks, we're going to create new users, user module, and name is going to be item username. Comment will be item geckos. Password, item password, and then state is going to be present, and our loop is going to use new users variable for that. Okay, so generating the password, there's a filter called password hash that we can use for this. You can use your debug module to make this work. And I'm going to see if I can do it as an ad hoc command. Not 100% sure if I can do it as ad hoc. I might have to make a little playbook for it, but let's give it a try as an ad hoc command. So we'll just run this against localhost, and the module is going to be debug and argument. Let's do message equals password is, and then we do our, now this one I think it's probably not going to work as ad hoc command because the shell is probably going to interpret these curly braces as something weird. But what you would do here is you would have whatever you want your password to be. I'm just going to call it monkey123. We have the pipe command, which is doing a filter, password underscore hash, and then we supply the type of hash we want, which is going to be SHA-512, and then a salt. So I'm just going to call it my salt. And let's see if this works. Change debugs to debug. Yeah, I figure that probably would not, yeah, that wouldn't work. All right, so let's make a quick little, we'll do password generator, can't spell this morning, .yml. I'm going to use just like the minimum amount to make this work. All right, so let's try it here. Message, the password is do monkey123 with a capital M. Filter that to password hash, SHA-512, and my salt. All right, let's see if this works. Undefined variable. Maybe I need to put that in quotes, or maybe I just need to do it as variable. I'm pretty sure that's what we have to do for that. So I know I've done this before. Maybe I need to put this. I think I need to do this in quotation marks. Let's try that again with this in quotation marks. That's what I needed to do. Okay, so notice this here. If I were to cat, I might have to do, let's SSH into labrel AN01 real quick, and sudo cat etc shadow, and I'm going to grep for Eddie admin. All right, and notice what we have here. We have the $6, that's the type of hash that's used. And this next field is the salt that was used for my Eddie admin password, and here is the rest of said password. And you can see where the my salt came into play with this. This string here is what we can use for the passwords. All right, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the same string for all of these passwords, but that's how you generate that. So the key was having the quotation marks. So now I'm curious. I want to go back to my ad hoc command and see if that will work if I do the single quotation marks around monkey123. Okay, so it didn't do that. I wonder if I do this as variable, var equals, if that will work. Well, we get an error, but the password does look the same. So I guess that's another way of doing it as well. But the playbook method is going to get you this without having to mess with without having an error. All right. So for all of these passwords, you know what I could probably do is this. This would be kind of cool if this works. User pass, and then I'll set this to user pass. Or even then, I don't even have to make that as a part of the loop. What I can do, since I want to set the users to all the same password, I'll just remove that from the variable. And what we'll do is set this to user pass. There we go. Now, one thing to remember on the exam is they're not looking for the most elegant solution. They're looking for something that will work. Now, I'm kind of doing a little bit of refactoring here and making this a bit of a better solution, just use the variable user pass and such. But remember that as long as it works, or at least everything that I have read about the exam, as long as it works, that's what's important. So even if you were to do manually put in user pass for all of your items of your loop, as long as it works, that's what we're concerned with. I did not do a little visual check of syntax, so let's run our syntax check on user test. Ansible play is not going to work, but Ansible playbook should. All right, not complaining about syntax. And let's put this to the test. All right, so it looks like our users were created. So let's see if we can SSH in as them. So Rosa at labrel_an01, monkey123, and we are in as Rosa. So let me do who am I? Yep. Exit, and I'm sure the others will work, but let's do Kane at labrel_an01, monkey123, and we're in. All right, so that worked. Excellent. Let's see what else. One thing to remember is if you are having to configure groups, let's say that you have an exam objective where all of these people need to be added to a particular group. If that group does not exist, you're going to get an error. You have to have your groups created ahead of time. So let's go back to user test. And this time we're going to create a group. So name, create group. We'll use the group module. Name, we're going to call this heroes, and state present. And so what we're going to do for all of these is we're going to set append to yes, and groups we're going to put heroes for that. All right, so let's give this a try here. And if this works, we'll take a look at the documentation because there are a couple of things I want to make sure of about group. Of course, all these are going to be changed, which we would expect that. And I'm going to SSH labrel_an01, and I'm just going to run the ID Rosa command. And notice that gives us our UID, group ID, and notice that Rosa is now a part of two groups. And that would be the same for all of the others as well. Now, see if this is idempotent. Run this again. We should just get a bunch of OKs. Famous last words in IT should, right? Yep, and let's do I guess I can do the Ansible way for this. Ansible labrel_an01, ID Rosa. I'm going to become for that. And there we go. Now, I would say on the exam, doing it the Ansible way to check stuff, yeah, that will probably be good. But again, the idea is how efficient are you going to be with your time? And if it's quicker just to SSH into something and do the command that way, by all means do that for the exam. So the last thing I want to do is take a look at the Ansible doc for the group module. Yeah, so you can set GID for that. Let's see, non-unique group ID. I haven't used the non-unique thing. And then you can set yes to system, because remember the group IDs, I think it's under 1,000 for group ID, though they would be considered system groups. But typically what I would be using with groups is name and GID. What I'm curious though is, and actually let me take a look and see if I can find a module for this. See if there is a group membership thing. Okay, group based on facts, add or remove groups. Because think about it, you can do group mod, and with group mod you can add users. Of course, this can return a lot of things. So I was wondering if there may be a module for that. If there is, it's not jumping out at me. Otherwise, worst case scenario, you're basically user modding with the users or user module to be able to add members to a particular group. So I think for this objective, there are a couple other things I could do. I could, create users, but immediately set them as disabled. One thing I do wonder is about password aging. Maybe that's something I would need to do. Honestly, I haven't thought about that. So I'm going to see if there's any modules for password. All right, nothing that really jumps out. Let's take a look at the user module one more time. Ansible doc-s user. So I think about the change command. Now, of course, if there's stuff that you don't have a module for, you can always run the shell module or the command module. So we can set the expiration for an account, but I wonder about password expiration. If we're able to set that with this module. It's like we can lock it, but I don't see an expiration. Update passwords are different. Yeah. All right. So there's nothing that I see in the module that explicitly deals with setting a password expiration date. But of course, you can just use change with command or shell to be able to do that. So I think for this particular objective, I'm going to consider this a pass. I think I can handle creating users and creating groups and maybe modifying them using Ansible. I would have to refer to documentation. Or not would have to, I would refer to documentation just to be 100% sure on options and such. But I think I'm pretty well ready for that. So after a few videos of some of these modules feel like it's beating me down, I had a success with SE Linux stuff, and I think I have a success with users and groups. So I want to thank you for taking the time to watch. Hopefully you found this enjoyable, or if not enjoyable, hopefully you found it useful, maybe with your own studies. And if you've been having problems with something, perhaps you've seen me do something in a certain way that gives you a little bit of guidance on how you can resolve the issue yourself. If you did enjoy this or find it useful, make sure you do click like on the video and feel free to share it with others. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do click that subscribe button and ring the bell when you do. And I want to thank returning subscribers, as always, for watching another video. Feel free to leave comments. I'll respond as I have both time and ability. Thanks again for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you the next time.